Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Life Mastery TV. I'm Tommy Stovall, and my partner David McLeod is on the other end of this camera somewhere. David, welcome to today's show. How are you doing today, my friend?
Hey, good morning, Tommy. Yeah, thank you for the welcome. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I've been going through this problem with a bit of a chest cold, and I think I'm finally on the tail end of it, and so I hopefully won't be hacking up blood and guts during the course of this presentation and scaring people to death. And after all, it's a very, very interesting topic we got today. We're going to be talking about moving beyond the comfort zone. And our plan was to have a friend of ours, Azmina Jiwa, join us, but unfortunately she hasn't connected yet, and I'm not sure. She might be having some technical problems. I haven't heard from her yet. So we're going to just start without her, and if she joins us, we will welcome her in and continue in that vein like we always do. So I guess, Tommy, the way I would start this is the comfort zone. You know, for me, I know what that feels like. It's a really nice place. Everything's comfy, cozy. Everything's happy. And, you know, I'm very protected and all that stuff. I don't know. What about you? Do you have a kind of a comfort zone mentality that you deal with? And what's it like for you?
Hell yeah. Yeah, I do, right? Yeah, where you just feel like, you know what, I'm doing what I can, I'm putting out the effort I want to put out, I'm maybe not taking enough risk. You know, it's always that it kind of brings up, okay, life's going along, I'm doing what I need to do. And sometimes somewhere inside yourself, you're feeling like, well, could I do something else? Or do I need to do something different? Or what if? And you're like, no, you know what, I'm fine right now, I'm comfortable. You know, everything's working out okay, and you just kind of get into this, you just kind of flying level and steady. And there are times in life when you do that, and there are times in life maybe when you need to do that, but there are times in life maybe when you need to look at, is that the right level to be flying at? Am I okay just staying where I am? So that's, I think, the topic of today, is to explore whether staying in the comfort zone is always the best thing, or sometimes we need to maybe think about breaking out a little bit, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know for me, what I discovered for myself in the whole comfort zone thing is that sometimes things can get too comfortable, and you know, all of a sudden the TV becomes a really attractive option instead of maybe writing that extra chapter for my book, or maybe looking for one more speaking opportunity, or taking the risk to put myself out there a little bit more. Sometimes I guess there's that story that goes on in my head that, oh boy, if you put yourself out there, people are going to judge you. People are going to make fun of you. They're going to say you're no good. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They're going to do all that other stuff. And of course, that story contributes to my desire to stay in that comfort zone. That story kind of puts the kibosh on any effort I might want to make. And it just becomes so much easier to play one more video game, to watch one more episode of your favorite TV show, or to, you know, maybe sleep an extra hour or something. All of those things kind of add up. And what happens is eventually I notice, you know, nothing is happening. Nothing's happening. There's no growth taking place. And I wonder why that's going on. I've been thinking about all the stuff I want to do.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and sometimes, you know, as we're climbing, right, we always talk about improving ourselves, or looking, you know, how to make things better, how to quiet our minds, how to be more peaceful, how to be more loving. All these things that we always talk about on Life Mastery TV. And it always feels like, you know, it's an uphill. It's always like something we're doing. Sometimes there, you know, to plateau and to rest a little bit's okay, but it's easy to plateau and like just then start thinking like, oh, I don't need to climb anymore. I don't need and so we just need to, like you said, kind of just check that once in a while and see, is it time to you know, take an extra step, or time to do something else. Now, you know, let's say a year and a half ago, I was kind of at that place, and then you said to me, hey, let's do a weekly live TV show. I'm like, what? What, are you nuts? But that was the type of thing, right, that broke me out of maybe a comfort zone that I was in.
Yeah.
And that your question and your challenge there kind of inspired me. And so now, I do different things, right? I take different types of classes, and I go to different types of seminars, and I continue to work because there's always things to do to grow. So what is that voice, right? What gets us comfortable and says, oh, hit the snooze button, oh, one more episode, right? Where does that come from?
Yeah, and the problem is that snooze button is just way too easy to press, isn't it? I mean, it's right there. It's attached to that little phone or that little clock that is trying to remind you about the passage of time. But it says, no, never mind that time is passing. Just go ahead and press this little nice big button that says don't panic on it with the big happy face. And just press that and just go back and relax, go to sleep. The world doesn't really need what you have to offer. It's not that important. Besides, you got to take care of yourself.
You need that extra 15 minutes, another 9 minutes, another 9 minutes, another 9 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah, some people have coached me to put that alarm clock on a table that you have to get out of bed to turn it off on. I'm like, yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah.
So right. So what is it there? Okay, so snoozing is one thing, but wanting to grow and wanting to do something, and let's say we have an objective. Let's say we want to write a book or finish a book or make a video or get up and speak in front of somebody. What some of those triggers? And it's not like, okay, I just need a couple more minutes, but it's like there's other things that block us. There's those you started to talk about them, those anxieties, or those what ifs, or those fears. What if I fail? What if I don't do well? What if I succeed? All those what ifs kind of piling on us too. And it's something that we just need to, bring up and look at and start observing and seeing what our goals are and what's getting in the way of those goals.
Yeah, right. I think that, the comfort zone probably doesn't seem like a comfort zone at first. I think what happens is, we think about some of the things that we want to do, the things that we want to accomplish, the objectives we want to meet and so forth. And maybe that's when the fear starts to set in. And the fear that has a voice like, oh, if you do that, you're going to fail. Oh, if you do that, people are going to laugh. Oh, if you do that, somebody is going to be offended. Oh, if you do that, blah, 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 and so on and so on and so on. And so what you tend to do when you hear those fears and they get articulated in your own mind, what I end up doing is I end up pulling back and saying, oh, that must be true. That fear must be true. So maybe I should just kind of not do that for now. But after a while, what happens is those fears get quieter and quieter. But meanwhile, I've got more and more comfortable in my comfort zone. I've forgotten about those fears. I've forgotten about all the reasons why I'm in the comfort zone. And if I let that stay there long enough, I start to stagnate. I start to just kind of lose interest in life. I become apathetic. I become maybe even depressed. And if I stay there long enough, eventually my comfort zone is going to turn into a coffin. And I'm going to end up dead in that place. And maybe to some degree I am actually dead because I'm not allowing myself to be fully alive. And fully alive means taking risks. Fully alive means stepping beyond that comfort zone, stepping into that place of a little bit of discomfort so that you can grow a little bit. Because growth does not happen in the comfort zone. It happens just outside the comfort zone in what we call the risk zone.
Nice. So yeah, growth does not happen in the comfort zone. So let's talk about growth. And we talked a little bit about climbing the mountain or aspiring to something or being better or writing a book. So what can get us out of that comfort zone, right? And for me, a lot of times I have to go back to my why, my big why. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing anything? Why do I get up in the morning? And the answer doesn't come back. It's not to make a buck or not to feed my belly, but there's a bigger why, right? So for me, to have that why, and I sometimes draw it as a balloon, like a hot air balloon. That's my inspiration. That's my big purpose. That's my something. And everything I do kind of works towards that goal. So right. So and you don't want to beat yourself up, right? If you have an extra episode of the TV show that you want to watch, okay, do it. But the habit of getting into that, and then more and more, like you said, you're kind of losing focus of what your vision is, or what your goal is, or what your balloon looks like. That's where the comfort zone can be a trap. It's more of a comfort trap than a zone, right?
Exactly. And I want to just come back to that balloon, man. I think that is a beautiful metaphor. A nice, big, beautiful, brightly colored balloon with all my favorite colors on it, maybe with my certain patterns on it that represent things that are important to me. And it's just full of nice, beautiful, warm air, and it's rising and elevating. And that elevation, that rising, kind of symbolizes how I'm growing and becoming more enlightened, or more aware, more wise, whatever. That's what that symbolizes. And so the question is, how do I get that balloon to do the most that it can possibly do? And what is that balloon really doing? You talked about the big why. And I think that's a great, great question. The big why. Why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this because A, I want to be the most fulfilled person I can possibly be. But B, I also want to help other people do the same thing. I want to see this whole world transform into an amazing, beautiful place that all of us would love to live in. And I can't do that if I'm sitting back there in my comfort zone, clicking through the remote and channel surfing and watching all those TV shows, or maybe having another drink, or maybe putting another snooze button, thing. I can't do those things if I'm allowing myself to be distracted. And as Tommy said, and I agree with you on this, Tommy, yeah, it's okay to watch an episode, but just notice that you're doing it and be aware of it.
Yeah. Or maybe just watch what you're watching too. So it's not, back to the metaphor, right? If you're not always on task, right? I'm not always doing something that is in alignment with my balloon. Actually, I am. but indirectly, right? I mean, this show is in alignment. Other conversations I have, I wake up in the morning and I do some meditation. It's all in alignment with my higher purpose. But watching a TV episode may not be, unless I'm watching that TV episode with some degree of awareness, or I'm watching something on the tube that is bringing me some more knowledge, or some more wisdom, or something else, right? It depends on what I'm watching.
Absolutely.
So it's always interesting to observe what you're bringing in, because what you're bringing in, we're recorders. Our minds are recording devices, our bodies are energy recorders, and if we're bringing in uplifting, warm air balloon rising energy, then that's the direction we're going to go. If we're bringing in gnarly stuff and nasty stuff and heavy stuff, then you can feel the balloon starts to get weighed down, or tied down, or anchored down still to the ground. So now it's a matter of watching what you're doing with your spare time and with your time, because that comfort zone is tricky. It's a trap. It's very deceptive, is a nice way to put it, right? It can be very deceptive. And comfort. Oh, we all want comfort. We all want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And so feel that kind of vacuum almost starts, how it can hold you down and suck you in.
That's a great point. The idea of comfort. I think we often use the word comfort as a synonym for safety. We think that if we are comfortable, then we're safe. And maybe there's some truth to that. But the question that I always ask myself is, well, if I'm uncomfortable, am I actually unsafe? See, that's a tougher question. Just because I'm uncomfortable doesn't mean it's unsafe. It might be unsafe, that's true, but they're not the same thing. Discomfort does not equal unsafety. And so it's important to really be aware of that. Maybe the discomfort, it's like growing pains. Have you ever had growing pains? I mean, I certainly remember mine when I was a kid. It was uncomfortable, but it helped move me forward in my life. On the other hand, there are things that are very dangerous and obviously probably very uncomfortable at the same time. But my point is, just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's unsafe. So you can still create safety for yourself and still allow yourself a little bit of discomfort to give yourself that flexibility, that movement, and the ability to move through whatever the fear is, so that you can step on the other side and say, wow, I actually did that. I can do this. I am capable. That's really what we're talking about here. And then what you'll discover is your comfort zone just suddenly expanded. Now something that you've tried that was a little uncomfortable before maybe won't be so uncomfortable the second time you try it, or the third time, or the fourth time, or however many times it takes. And so what happens is your comfort zone starts to expand. Now your risk zone expands as well, and so does all the rest of your life. This is what expansion's all about, and that's what that big, giant, beautiful balloon was doing.
A lot of great stuff in there, and some of the things I was picking out were like safety and danger and fear, and so let's revisit this one again, David, because this one just kind of keeps coming up and pulling people down. Is what is fear? And fear, like the fear we think about, right? The imaginary fear. Oh, I'll be embarrassed. Oh, my reputation will be sullied. Oh, I'll be looked down upon. Oh, I'll be judged. All those are mind fears, right? They're just synapses firing in our brain, is all they are. And that's very much different than danger. Danger is real. Danger is when there's a car running through the red light and you're in the middle of the intersection. That's danger, right? Yeah. And we don't have a lot of really dangerous situations in most of the world. There are pockets where it's really freaking dangerous to be right now. I'm blessed and not in one of those. So in my life, there isn't a lot of real danger. So all the scary stuff, it just comes from our head, and we just need to be aware of that. We just need to be a witness to that and say, okay, I'm in my comfort zone. I'm afraid to get out of it. Why am I afraid to get out of it? Well, it's not because I'm going to really get hurt. I'm not going to. So, there might be some danger or not danger, but again, it's mind-based fear of maybe I need to leave my day job and do my spiritual work full time. Well, making that leap is a challenge, because then now you're talking finances and you're talking your welfare. So there's a gray area in there, but a lot of times our mind is just playing games on us and just trying to keep us safe. Pink Floyd just keeps coming back. The whole Bricks on the Wall album and all the songs in there were like, oh, just stay where you are, stay safe, stay in your comfort zone, don't do anything dangerous. And it's not doing anything dangerous, it's just taking risk. And you were getting to it, David. The times we've taken risk in our life, I'm sure have been some of the most liberating, expansive. Our comfort zone increases every time we take a risk. Like doing this show.
Yeah.
It works out. It works out for the better, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, Tommy. And in fact, I'm going to speak directly to the viewers. I want you to think of a time in your life when you felt like everything was flowing smoothly. You felt like you were on top of the world. You had this like a peak experience of some kind. It could have been anything. It could have been, maybe you were skydiving. Maybe you were bungee jumping. Maybe you were skiing down a particularly difficult slope. Maybe you were out on the dance floor with a beautiful partner doing the most intricate dance of your life. But somehow, whatever it was for you, I bet you can come up with an experience in your life that reminds you of when you felt totally alive. And in that moment, my guess is you weren't thinking about how other people were perceiving you. You weren't worried about whether anybody thought you were doing something brilliant or stupid or anything like that. You were just totally present and totally in the flow of your own life. That's where life it begins. And let me tell you something, you probably weren't in your comfort zone when you were doing it. And yet, there may have been some risk. There may have been even some real danger there that was facing you. And you were facing that danger in your own life in a way that just made you feel totally alive. So remember that feeling of being on top of the world, that feeling of flow, that feeling of being in the groove. And remind yourself that all you have to do to feel that again is to step a little out of your comfort zone and be present.
That the images that were popping into my head of the being free and really being free and being, risky, taking risk and being out there and living in the moment. And the moment is, while it's right here, it's everything. It's everywhere. It is living life. It's really living life to its fullest. Not knowing what's going to come next, what's going to happen next. You have some sense of it, but moment by moment, just taking those risks and living. You're right. You do feel alive. to remember those feelings of aliveness are a great, like, part of your balloon to remember what it feels like. And the image I was coming up with was this comfort zone is a box. It's like I'm stuck in a box every time we talk about the comfort zone. You know, where it used to feel like, oh, the comfort zone's nice. Now the comfort zone is feeling very restrictive after listening to you explain it that way.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be restricted, but yet that comfort zone is 4 walls, a roof, and a floor, and I'm kind of squished in it.
Yeah.
Do you want to be there? Or, you know, how do we pop out of that box?
You know, Tommy, I just happened to look on our list and I see Asmina is in as a viewer, and I'm trying to bring her in as a speaker. Well, hopefully that'll work. But meanwhile, let's just keep going.
She may need to select to back out and select a different, the presenter choice.
Yeah.
There were 2 choices in the email, but.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, yeah, what you were saying, that really just makes a lot of sense to me. And so here's something else that we can do is when I'm in my comfort zone, one of the things I can ask myself is, so what is it that I think I'm afraid of? And, you know, just allow those little stories to come up. Oh, you know, people are going to think this, people are going to judge me that way. Write them down. Write them down. This is something that Tommy and I have talked about, you know, for almost every episode. We talk about writing stuff down. Get it out of the head so you can look at it in front of you. And then you can say, is this really true? Is this a true statement about me? And if it is true, now you can do something about it. If it's not true, well, guess what? Now you can do something about it. It's really a choice to decide, well, if it's not true, then why am I raising that story? What is it about that story? Where did that story come from? How can I free that story and eliminate it so that I can be, you know, free for myself to be able to step outside my comfort zone? What is it that I'm really, maybe there's a deeper fear underneath the story that you're not even aware of. So I invite you then to take the risk to examine your fears, to write them down, and of course, allow yourself to feel them too. Feeling is very, very important. If you can just allow yourself to be present to it and then let it pass through and write it down and get the details out, your life will just become easier. And then you can step outside your comfort zone.
Again, that all feels like a box to me, right? That the comfort zone is a box and the walls are fears. And the ceiling is some degree of fear or anxiety. And the floor is some degree of, you know, something that's holding you in. And by writing it down, you're going to see, looks like we have Asmina.
She finally came in.
Finally, oh gosh, I don't know what happened. I got all these cookies problems and I just couldn't resolve it.
Well, I saw that you were on as a visitor. Were you listening to what we were saying?
I only just logged in about 5 minutes ago. So yes, I listened to some of it.
Okay, can you tilt your camera down a little bit so we can see your face?
Uh-huh. How about that?
That's better. Well, welcome, Asmina. I'm so glad you could join us, even if it is a little bit late. Welcome to the show. We've been talking about the comfort zone and overcoming fear and so forth. I'd like you to just dive right in as if you were right in there in the whole conversation and share with us your wisdom.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for your patience. And yes, I'm hugely out of my comfort zone right now today because it's something very new, and I feel, you know, my knees were knocking and my heart was pounding. But I've learned through my life that if I don't actually cross that comfort zone, then I'm not going to get anywhere, and I'm not going to have this excitement. So I'll just share some of the things where I come from. My type of comfort zone used to be, fear of rejection, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So my comfort zone was, just say yes to everybody, do what everybody else wants, and don't rock the boat. And that way, I was just living this life of fear, not really much excitement, just existing. And when I learned some of the truths about fear, that is what really, really helped me. And one of the truths was that everybody feels fear.
Yeah.
And I used to think if I feel fear, it means I can't do something.
Mm.
And so I just stay in that comfort zone. And just feel trapped, really. But it's a funny word, isn't it? It's comfort, but it's not. It's not really happy place.
That's a good point.
Yes, and so when I learned this, and then I also learned that really, ultimately, it's my responsibility. If I want to be happy in life, it's my responsibility to steer my life the way I want, and not expect other people to, know what I want or do. So that helped me to become more assertive, to speak my mind. It was a journey. It wasn't something that happened overnight, but it really freed me. And I think I heard the 5 minutes I heard you mention about, told me about freedom and feeling this freedom of, you can fly once you've crossed the threshold. And, the remaining in that fearful place or in your comfort zone is actually worse than doing a dive and coming out, which feels really like, oh my God, I can't do this. But actually doing that is actually a lot less painful than staying in that. So that's something I would like people to, really realize, that if you just take that step, it's actually easier than having stayed with that feeling of, I'm not really doing what I want, but oh, it's okay, and that's actually worse.
Wow, that's a great awareness, Asmina, and I'm glad you brought that up. Something that, I think I've been aware of it as well, but hadn't really articulated it that way. So I'm gonna rephrase that in my own way, and that is, it's actually easier to walk through the fear than it is to stay locked in it. In the long run, it's easier to walk through the fear, feel it, and get through it on the other side than it is to stay stuck in it.
Yes, because with that stuck feeling, you've got that feeling every day. Whatever it is, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't do this, and you've got this little spark which comes up every now and again where you want to say something or you want to do what you want to do, but then, our chatterbox, the very, which we've talked about, and I've heard you talk a lot about it, is all these kind of layers of which is not our true self, but what we've heard from our parents and our, society and whatever. And it's that chatterbox that comes into play, and our insecurities start to rise, and then we just think, oh no, I'll just stay here. But that's actually a lot more painful.
Yeah, Asmina, beautifully spoken, and thanks for sharing it. And the image that pops into my head is this comfort zone is not a happy place, right? It's really not. It gets heavy. It feels restrictive, and that thought process of my mind, I sometimes call it a death spiral, where one nasty thought just triggers to the next, 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 and pretty soon you're sitting around, like you said, David, you're sad, you're depressed, you don't know why.
Yes.
It's very heavy, and
it
so
is.
We're totally smashing this word comfort to pieces because it's not very comfortable at all.
Yeah. I imagine it as like a big giant blanket, a really dark, heavy blanket that just kind of starts out, it wraps around me, and it feels warm and cozy at first. But after a while, it seems to tighten up, and and I can't get out of it, and I'm just, it squeezes me. It makes it hard to breathe.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you're in that situation, you're really quite helpless. You feel paralyzed, like you say. You're paralyzed by this blanket that's squeezing you. And what can you achieve in that? And in worst case scenarios, it can lead to, some cases depression. I mean, I was almost there. Not quite depressed, but I was feeling very worthless. I was feeling like, I haven't done anything in my life. I had done a lot, but I think what I hadn't done was my deep kind of longings of what I wanted to do.
Right.
I'd done a lot of things in my life, but it wasn't at a deep level. I wasn't doing what I really, really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was just so frightened that people will laugh at me, or they think, who is she to be doing this, or or not only just who is she, but also this huge fear of rejection, that people won't like me, and that's just, I mean, now that I've overcome that, it just feels like why didn't I really live my life?
Yeah. You know what? As you're talking there, Azmina, one thing that comes to my mind, and I've said this to people in my Toastmasters club. Think about, if you imagine that people are judging you all the time, just switch the roles around and look at somebody else who's up there speaking and notice the judgments that you have about that person. My belief is, for the most part, you're sitting there, maybe inspired that this person has that much bravery to get up there and speak. You're not thinking about all the mistakes they're making. You're thinking more about the fact that they're sharing themselves.
Exactly, yes.
And yet, so my point is, so why would you imagine that they're thinking the opposite when you're up there talking?
Yeah. This is it, exactly. And I think it is passed down to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
When our adults kind of speak about, oh, better not do this, people will laugh at you, or better not, or even their own fears are passed down. And I know a lot of that is what happened to me. And of course, what you say about the audience, I think another thing about fear is it is false expectations that are appearing real, isn't it? So really, it's this expectation we build up in our mind and think it's real, everybody will laugh. But I think it's excellent what you said. If you put yourself, yes, maybe one or two people may, but then it's really their problem.
That's exactly.
Yes, and majority of the people are not going to. If we can actually visualize.
And Azmina, just case in point right now, I've known you for 15 minutes. You came in, said your heart was pounding, and you were a little bit nervous, and I've heard nothing but beauty and love and wisdom coming from you, and I'm like, I'm in here with you, and so just case in point, right? We think we're going to get rejected if we speak our mind, if we speak our heart, and it's just the opposite. Anyone who I've seen, speaking from their heart and opening up and being true to themselves, you just open up to them. You have to. It's just like a sisterhood, a brotherhood. It's a law. And
yes, and it's a huge connection when you're coming from the place. If you're not doing that, then you're not really connecting to people either. Everything you do starts to be very superficial.
Right.
It doesn't feel at a deep level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody, one of the things that we said at the beginning of the show, stepping outside that comfort zone may be scary. It may be uncomfortable. But something magical will happen when you do it. And then after you've done it once and you've experienced whatever it is you're going to experience, you'll realize, oh, that wasn't so bad. I could do that again.
That's right.
And that's the whole secret. Make that one step out. Come back into your comfort zone if you need to, but then take another step out.
Absolutely.
It's all part of, it's like baby steps. You don't have to run a marathon the first time you do it. Okay?
Exactly. Yes. When I first started presenting, I felt like, oh, I can never do this. But the more I put myself into it, and when you're doing the same thing over and over again, like you say, that fear isn't there. But like doing something new, like today, the fear came back, but having learned to settle my chatter, saying it will be all right, whatever it is, it will be, and I know my stuff, I'll be fine, just changing. Instead, the chatter could have been, oh my God, how can you be here? There'll be so many people listening to you, and what if words don't come out? I had to really just say, that's okay. So it's really learning about kind of changing that negative chatter into positive as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Azmina, I want to say thank you for joining us. I'm sorry we didn't get more time with you today, but we are at the end of our time, and we will make time for you to come back on another time, okay? So you can step outside your comfort zone on a different subject. But Tommy, what are we going to be doing next?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Azmina. Lovely meeting you, and we'll be talking again soon.
Lovely.
Yeah, next week, David and I have a brand new adventure going on. We're actually going to be in the same place at the same time for the show. And the topic is going to be a little bit of a surprise because we're still working that out. But next week, David and I are going to be co-hosting in a co-location, and it should be fun. So join us then.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Ismina. Love you.
Bye.